when our places and our spaces, our rooms, our apartments, our homes, the environment our families have grown up in, that our parents are in, when that interferes with our ability to be harmonious, this is something we can help with. We can collapse the energies that are in the environment. One of the things Tarvars was saying is that when these emotions are there, they're programmed in, but it's not just emotion, it's intense emotion. Mm-hmm. This is that yelling, screaming, cussing out kind of energy that doesn't go away when you open the window.
Yeah.
This is not something you can
sage. You can't sage that.
You are not your body. You are the invisible intelligence. Every thought has an emotion attached to it. Thoughts are electrical. Emotions are magnetic. Your emotions are felt in the heart, which produces the electromagnetic field. Your emotional state creates your vibe, and your vibe attracts your tribe. You attract whatever frequency you operate on. Mind creates matter. The external world mirrors the state of your internal thoughts and emotions. You set your frequency with your mind, with your thoughts. That's why we call it a mindset.
Did you know different emotions could affect different parts of your body? For example, anger affects your liver energy. Overthinking or worry affects your gut health. Sadness or grief could create lung issues. Too much fear could damage your kidney health. Be more aware of these different emotions and try to moderate and balance them.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun. And we are talking again about relationships, but we're talking about solutions to problems that people have in relationships today. But first, we need to call for the truth. Are you ready?
Yes,
Tarvars?
let us all gather in, if you're here on this line, so that we may harmonize with the truth. Shall we call to see the truth, speak the truth, and hear the truth in all things. And we're talking about the relationship between male and female, masculine and feminine, how we can get into our divinity, and also how clearing can help restore that, because there's a lot going on that influences the dissonance that's being created. So let's dive into it.
So we at Of the Sun are property clearers. We provide property clearing services for individuals, for companies, for real estate services, and we have done for many years a great deal of research on this, and we find that, and science backs up the fact that intense emotion is programmed into the paint, into the spaces and the places where we are. So if something is going on in a space, there is a morphic field of energy that repeats and broadcasts that, very much like we would think of a crystal. And so there's a lot of new science that has proven that those fields can be measured. So often we will be called in on a case because an apartment won't sell, or a house won't sell, a condo won't sell, or a house won't sell because people love the house. It's in a great place, but they walk in and they feel something. And sometimes what they're feeling is divorce energy, which doesn't necessarily mean that people were married, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they got a divorce, but that what took place in the apartment felt like divorce.
Yeah, all that disgruntled, I hate you, but I love you at the same time energy.
Yes.
That's what that looks like.
So we are in the business of clearing energies like that. And so we consult people on how to, who are in those kind of situations. And then we also offer our services to companies who need their spaces to be free of that energy, so that the free flow of balance and harmony can exist in a space, which then in many cases, especially in properties, means the property can sell. So we have a lot of case histories, and we may do a compilation of some of the things we're doing. Would you like to talk about something that you have had as a case history?
Yes, and before I do, this idea that LaOta is speaking about, how there's a field of energy in the background that usually escapes people, but at the same time, there's this saying that I have: everybody speaks the language of frequency, they just don't know it.
Right.
You know, because spaces and places, they influence us. I'll give an example. If you ever go to a gym, you know the difference between working out at home and working out in a gym. There's a different type of energy pattern that influences you, right? So if we rely on these type of experiences of how we feel when we go into a space, or for example, if you have had arguments in one part of the house and then you leave, you go back to that same part of the house, all the thoughts from the argument, they start surfacing up. That's that memory field that she's talking about, that it has to be collapsed. Otherwise, it's gonna pull us back into that same experience. We'll repeat it. And that divorce energy that she's talking about is often heavy from the repetitive, unresolved emotions.
What we have seen in many situations in general is that people don't understand why they want to be harmonious. They can't get out of the pattern. Sometimes they've moved into a space that was borderline for them. It was a borderline frequency match, and then it tips them over the edge. As soon as they move into the house, there starts to be bickering, and there starts to be problems with communication, or one person will become stuck, or both people become stuck, and the relationship starts to deteriorate. So we want to definitely speak to the idea of how to correct that. And we have a practice, and we have services that we can offer people that have been very effective. One of the practices is the idea of calling for the power of the divine feminine to come into our life. And I need to explain that, because the power of the divine feminine is the power of life itself. It's the harmony we see with the divine masculine in the trees, or we see with the divine masculine in nature. It's what we see that is harmonious, that produces food, that makes it possible for us to have honey. It's all of the systems in the natural order that bring everything into a harmonious balance through the law of gender. So this is a very interesting thing. We're not really speaking of anything other than natural order. We're only really speaking about the idea of nature being the divine feminine. And the divine masculine, this aspect, the other polarity, there are two polarities of creation. And you can think of it like you think of your brain. You have one half of the brain that specializes in certain things, and another half of the brain that specializes in certain things. And together, they should always be together to produce the best result. So this is really that idea. When our places and our spaces, our rooms, our apartments, our homes, the environment our families have grown up in, that our parents are in, when that interferes with our ability to be harmonious, this is something we can help with. We can collapse the energies that are in the environment. One of the things Tarvars was saying is that when these emotions are there, they're programmed in, but it's not just emotion, it's intense emotion. Mm-hmm. This is that yelling, screaming, cussing out kind of energy that doesn't go away when you open the window. Yeah. This is not something you can sage.
You can't sage that.
It might feel better, but that's only enough to push it into the corners, and then it's still in the environment. So you walk over there and you're like, yeah.
So let's talk about that really quick, because sometimes when we bring this concept of quantum light property clearing, people respond with, "Oh, I have sage," and I'm like, I don't think they get it, because sage is cool, honor, respect, and gratitude to sage, but it's just, you got to think of things as a matter of octaves. And sage works, ringing bells work, opening the windows for sunshine to come in, have some plants works, but it's a matter of degrees. Sage is not going to get rid of intense depression. Sage is not going to get rid of intense anger from an argument where you were just crying and yelling and to where you lost your voice. It might move a couple of thought forms, but that it's not enough to meet and match the intensity of the energy that was brought in.
I think
Any thoughts on that?
yes, I think the idea of knowing that there's octaves. There's one octave when your child looks at you and rolls the eyes. It's another octave when something's flying past your head. You know, those are
Right, they're throwing dishes and books and whatever they can find.
those are different octaves. And this is a very ancient understanding. In the ancient times, when people got married, they would pour salt around the house to help keep evil from coming into the house to interfere with the couple.
Yeah.
So the idea of sage is the same way, to kind of freshen and to open the windows and let a cross breeze come through and let those energies escape. However, many buildings have existed for many generations. There may have been generational experiences that have compounded into a space. So we are able to come in and assist with that. Or if you have a house where you actually got a divorce in the house and you want to sell the house, it's helpful to use quantum light property clearing so that we can freshen and move these different kinds of energy patterns so that the house can be available for people to move into and they are not encumbered by why you're getting a divorce and leaving it.
So I got a story just for that. I'm so glad you came back full circle. All right, so burning with this story. Client in South America, I think this was either Venezuela or Panama.
Right.
I don't want to say her name respectfully.
It was Venezuela.
Okay, so this is how wild it is. She was going through a divorce and she also had a property in Miami. She's the owner. This story speaks to how even the owner of the property, their type of energy, it's broadcasting. So the divorce that she had with her husband, they left, they split, she still got this apartment. Some people internationally moved in, and guess what? They are going through a divorce. And it was funny enough, the client said to me, you know, the couple that's in there, they're arguing right now. You know, it kind of reminds me of me and my husband when we lived there. I was like, kind of reminds you, huh? Like, she's like, could it be? Could it be? Yes, could it be? I mean, you tell me. Oh, that rhymes. You know, so it was amazing to see her have the clarity of how her past experience of divorcing, and it was unresolved, it was interrupting the selling of the property. You know, and even not just selling of the property, but the relationship of the occupants who moved in. And of course, we knew that if we didn't clear this, she would attract the same type of pattern that she was looking to get away from in the marriage.
And as the owner of the property, whether the property was in one country or another, the legal tie ties the person to the property and ties it to their energy pattern. So she had been in an unhappy relationship that resolved itself in divorce. So she was still that person at the time. We later worked on making sure, helping her work through all of these things. But what happened with that apartment? I remember what happened with the apartment in Venezuela and then the apartment in Miami.
Well, so after we cleared it, because she was having issues with selling it because of the attachments and the connections from the ex still it was as if he's still there, right? And this is what we were saying, where, you know, those experiences are still in the field. You know, the connections are still there, and that has to be collapsed. When we collapsed it, it sold within weeks.
Yes.
It was the same with the apartment in Miami.
And I know, because she called me and she was so excited that you had done the work and so pleased with it. And this is something that everyone wants to know, well, how is it you do this? Well, this is a proprietary way that we do it, but the principle is ancient. Dirt stops everything. Dirt meaning mental debris or emotional debris or physical debris makes it so it's not possible to live at the highest and the best octave.
Yes.
You know, so the idea of our emotional debris, not only does it affect our health, the health of our children, it also affects the material around us. And so the bigger idea is that the material had become tainted. And then quantum light property clearing, which is what we do at Of the Sun, and what we teach at Of the Sun is a method that can remove layers and layers of that. I want to mention that many people don't really understand this concept until I share this example. Have you ever sat in your relative's chair, a chair that they sit in every day? Like your uncle who watches television and does whatever he's doing in that chair, and he's been sitting in that chair for a year or longer. Have you ever sat in the chair and then felt a level of uncomfortability where you're like, I'll just stand?
Yeah, because you have just become Uncle Ruckus or whoever, and it's oh my gosh, ew, like I need to take a shower, I need to get him off of me.
Vibration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles, intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality. And it's the same thing with wearing other people's clothes. We all are familiar with that feeling. Like it's also a level of octaves.
You're right.
If the person doesn't often wear the thing and you wear it, you might not feel anything. But if they wear it all the time and you put on their coat and they wore it all winter, you might feel their experience, and it may be compatible, it may not be compatible, but you'll be aware of it. You'll say, oh, I love wearing your things. I always feel so good when I have something of yours on. Or you'll say, you can take this. I'll just be cold.
Right.
So this is how you can know that you are already experiencing this. You do not have to be a clairvoyant or a psychic. This is something we all experience. It's especially true of where anything on our heads or anything on our feet. So the aura is carried in the shoes and in the head. So you put on someone's hat and you will really feel it. Or you wear someone else's shoes, if they wear them all the time, you'll feel that person. And it may be comfortable, but it may also not be comfortable.
So this is making me thinking about thrifting, used items, things like that, because I used to be a thrifter and you just get it in. But when I became aware of the energetic imprint, there was second thoughts on, I don't know if I want secondhand items. Now, of course, we can clear them, but I'm in a whole different space with this knowledge. Would you speak on this idea? Because
yes.
A lot of people thrift.
I actually enjoy remaking things and redesigning things, and I've spent many years buying things that were secondary use, but they must be washed. And they shouldn't be things that cannot be washed. It shouldn't be shoes that cannot be washed. It shouldn't be felt hats. It has to be things that you can wash with soap and water and dry, and then infuse them with your gratitude for having them, so that you reset them. So you want to buy something, coats would be more difficult than like a blouse or a skirt. So we don't want to say don't ever do it, but just know that even when you get something new, it has the pattern of the ones who sewed it.
Exactly, yeah.
And it also may have chemical film on it. Everything should be washed. And when we do property clearings, we always recommend that the drapes be washed, the comforters be washed, everything be cleaned as much as possible to hold the clearing because it's in the wall-to-wall carpeting. It's especially in the mattresses. You know, all that tossing and turning at night.
That crying into your pillow. It did me wrong.
All of that, or whatever joy there is in that experience, and with the pillows, you want to take that into consideration. We often will recommend everything be dry cleaned and or washed, the rugs be shampooed, and the mattresses be discarded, and get you a new mattress.
Ideally.
Because a lot of people in levels of depression are in the bed all weekend, or never really get out of the bed, or never really make up the bed. And that whole level really coincides with bed bugs. It coincides with the depression that's in the experience of people being in the bed when sad, unhappy thoughts contributing to it.
Yeah.
So
I actually, it's making me think about another story, but as it deals with children, and I know we're kind of getting off, we were talking about masculine, feminine, but again, this principle of the energy transference in mattresses. One of the children from this client in New York, the child had bed bugs. It was two children in the same room. One bed had bed bugs, the other one didn't. And they're like, what's going on? And guidance shared that this was an experience that was called forth from the child. Due to his levels of depression and sadness, he essentially felt like his younger brother was getting more attention. You know, everything had shifted from him to the other child. And, you know, most parents think the children aren't going through things. We're all experiencing stuff. And that little boy called forth an experience where the attention was diverted from the youngest back to him, because the infestation, he was having bites, and, you know, he needed some type of attention to heal. And again, this idea of the building up of frequency and how it can pull forth an experience such as an infestation.
Well, I talked to the parents of that child when you did that clearing, and it was very interesting because even though they knew that one of the children was winning awards and was an older child in doing certain things, and they had been in great praise and celebration of that child, and they were aware of it, but they weren't aware that the other child was filling a deficit. So the other child is laying in bed thinking these thoughts that were in deficit, not that the parents had done anything wrong, they were just unaware of what was going on. And so the child went into a slight depression, and in his depression, he was longing for the attention. And since what he was calling for was not to win awards, he was calling for attention.
Yes.
Then a circumstance presented itself where the bed bugs came in to accommodate his wanting attention. And so then he was bitten all over, and the parents were giving him their full attention. They were taking him to the doctor, they were taking care of his bed, they were buying him a new mattress. He became the star of the day. And in my conversation with him, once we did the clearing, the whole thing collapsed.
I would also like to say, just the awareness alone for them to know what was happening. I remember their reaction, oh my gosh, we didn't realize this is what we were doing. And it encouraged a pivot within the behavior and the interaction with the child too.
And this is very interesting because often when the children don't show outward signs, we're not aware of what their experience is emotionally.
Yeah.
So this was easily resolved, but everyone grew and everyone understood that the parents were so clear from now on to make sure that they were in touch. When one child, now that they recognized this pattern between the two boys, they were going to be on top of recognizing when one started to excel to make sure that they balanced their praise.
Yeah.
So that both children got what they needed. That's an excellent example of what happens. This is a relationship with nature. It's also the relationship between the parent and child, and it's also the relationship and the reality of what happens with quantum light property clearing. This happens with people at all ages and all levels, and can really bring us much greater harmony in our experience. And these practices are done in all other countries. I don't know if you're aware, but even when Donald Trump moved into the White House, his wife cleared the White House before he moved in. She wouldn't go in and sleep in the beds until she had her personal clearer come in and clear it.
Them people in the Eastern Bloc be knowing. They know they gotta do something.
Well, not just that. I mean, there's the Versace mansion in Miami.
In Miami, yeah, that
When
was a big thing.
That
Yeah.
was a big thing. That when Versace passed away and the mansion was on the market, they called in property clearers
Yes.
to clear it.
Because it literally would not sell.
But it sold within 3 weeks after that. But it had been on the market for millions and millions of dollars. It was in a property that would call for that. But whatever was going on in the energy patterns in the house, people were like, I would like to buy this. And they'd walk around and say, oh, no, I don't think I want to.
Yeah.
And they didn't really know what it was either. But once the energies were freshened and the whatever the heaviness was removed, the property sold immediately. And that's how we operate. We have one of our property clears clears and has a contract with storage units. The storage units have a lot of bump in the night things going on. and so the people at the desk are often calling, there's something in here. So we do that kind of clearing
There's
as well.
something strange in your neighborhood. Who
Who are you going to call? Of the sun. So additionally, this idea of, the idea of the masculine, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, to best support ourselves, it is best that we always have cleanliness at the top of our experience. So cleanliness is, the great quote is next to godliness, and that's true. So we are in that business of keeping things clean so that all families, all relationships can prosper in this environment of energetic cleanliness.
Yes, I think that's well said. I feel like there are so many different directions we can go with this to build. I think we'll have a part 2, part 3, part 4. Again, masculine, feminine, and how it's incorporated with what we do here at Of the Sun with soul clearings, clearing the interferences that are also responsible for imprinting the space, and of course, the clearing of the imprints in the space or the interferences as well.
I look forward to coming back and speaking to you again with Tarvars and speaking more about the cases and the case studies we have done through our property clearing practice at Of the Sun. We thank you. And we would like to say, shall you call for the truth? Call to see the truth, call to hear the truth, call to experience the truth. May you have nothing less than the truth.